Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Health Sciences, SOHS, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Healthcare Waste Management, CHCWM Compulsory. BHM-101 Fundamentals, Environment and Health, Healthcare Waste Management Regulations. Block 1 Understanding Our Environment. Unit 1 Introduction to Environment. 1.0 Objectives. After studying this unit, you should be able to define environment, list the features of the environment, explain the importance of environment, describe the impact of humans on the environment, explain the effect of environmental hazards on health. 1.1 Introduction. Health and environment are interlinked. Therefore, at first, we need to understand what is environment. The natural environment and the people living on planet Earth form a complex, integrated and dynamic system. The environment supports life on Earth by providing the essential resources that support and regulate life. However, the environment is under threat from the exponential growth of human population, coupled with the modern technological and industrial developments. The threat is not only to the environment but also to our health and well-being. You will know more about all these threats in this unit. This unit will introduce you to the meaning of environment and other concepts related to environment. You may already be aware of the concepts of the parts of the environment like the lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere and biosphere. You will be able to recap these concepts here. Environment is important for sustenance of life. We need to live in harmony with it. There are a number of human activities leading to the depletion of the natural resources by its exploitation and the pollution of the various components of environment. The impact of indiscriminate use of resources is measured by various parameters like carrying capacity of Earth, ecological footprint, carbon credit, etc., which have been covered in this unit. You will also become familiar with the environmental issues like global warming, greenhouse effect, acid rain, deforestation, etc. that we are facing today due to the impact of the human activities on environment. The altered environment too has an impact on the human health in the form of biological, chemical, physical, accidental and psychological factors. These hazards could be short-term or long-term. It is thus imperative that we understand the importance of safeguarding the environment for our sustenance. 1.2 What is environment? Let us start by understanding the term environment. Simply put, everything around you is your environment. The environment in plain terms means surroundings. The air you breathe, the trees and flowers you admire, the water you drink, the sky you look up to, and the people you live with are all part of our environment. So the term environment implies constant interactions between living beings and the surrounding physical and biological factors. The physical factors include air, water, soil, climate, heat, light, noise, housing, radiations, debris, etc. This environment is also called the abiotic environment. The biological factors are all types of plants and animals including human beings. This environment is also called the biotic environment. For plants and other animals, environment is limited, but for human it also extends to the social conditions under which we live. Social conditions include customs, culture, religion, habits, occupation, income, technology, and economics. You will note that the environment comprises of static features, such as hills and buildings, and dynamic events, such as floods, weather changes and the economic, cultural and political features imposed by human beings. Naturally, the idea of environment is different to different people. The concept of the environment is not just one of passive scenery but includes events and processes that affect our daily lives. When we plan for the future, as when we plant crops or build a new factory or house, we need to consider the environmental factors of each place where we intend to carry out such actions. This is true for individuals and for group of people. The person planting crops on their family farmland has to take into account the local conditions of weather, soil, slope and land ownership. The environment is constantly changing and a natural thing to happen is that populations increase. Machines and automation have replaced manual work. More and more space and resources are required to sustain all of this growth. Life is not the same as it was a few hundred years ago. Apart from the positive changes, there are also the negative impacts. Advanced lifestyles has introduced some intruders into our natural environment and led to ecological disturbance in the natural composition of the environment. The air you breathe is polluted by smoke from vehicles and factories. The water you drink contains impurities that have flowed into rivers and lakes, and even the calmness that was once part of rural life has been disturbed with increased noise from gadgets that back up today's lifestyle. There is much debate over the building of dams, the setting up of power plants, or even the construction of residential complexes in some areas. These are not only displacing whole villages and settlements but also disrupting the ecological balance of nature. It has become important to take into account various environmental factors. Some people, therefore, will carefully consider where they should live, construct their house or factory, or even rent a house because they are beginning to realize the good and bad effects of the environment on their health. Managing healthcare waste through various burn technologies like incinerators can result in emissions of harmful gases which have an adverse impact on the population. In case technologies like incinerators are required to be used, we need to consider building centralized incinerators to reduce the effect of the emissions on the general population. Efforts are on to mitigate the wastes generated which cause environmental pollution. You will read more about the management of these wastes in the subsequent units in this block. You are now ready to try and understand your environment in a more intimate way. Let us look around to consider our own surroundings. We all live in varied environments, and here is a study you can conduct to help yourself in understanding the environment. If you live in a rural area, as over 70% of Indian people do, your environment is one of villages and small towns where people work mainly in the surrounding fields, forests, or mines. Take some time to observe the kinds of fields, flat, sloping, large, small, field boundaries, ditches, fences, crops and animals that occur in your area. What kind of farming do you see? Are the products used locally, or are they sold in the nearest market town or even sold to markets in other countries? How do the monsoons affect your area? Is your area affected by floods, soil losses or forest removal? Where do you dispose of your domestic and other wastes? What changes have you and your family seen over the last 20 years? Have you seen changes in land quality, water availability, weather, and local plants and animals? Have you seen a change in your own lifestyle? Have you seen health improve or deteriorate? If you live in an urban area, as increasing numbers of Indians do, your surroundings and daily concerns will be different. Buildings, such as homes and workplaces, dominate the area. Trees and gardens are decreasing due to increase in the paved structures. People work in shops, offices, and factories and as domestic help in houses. They travel to work by walking, bicycles, motorcycles, or cars, and by buses and trains. What sort of locality do you live in? What do people do in offices and factories known to you? What changes have you or your family experienced over the past 20 years? Has your family moved from rural to urban area in this time? How do the summer heat, monsoon rains and some recent climatic changes affect life in your area? How do you get your water and electricity? How does the local government dispose of wastes? Have you noticed a significant increase in pollution levels in your own locality? Has health improved or deteriorated? What new diseases have you noticed in your city in the past few decades? 1.3 Features of our environment. Let us see how our planet Earth functions within the environment we have described above. Mars has a rocky surface, but only a thin atmosphere. The outer planets, such as Saturn, Jupiter, Neptune and Uranus, are mostly composed of extremely cold gases. The Earth's environment is friendly to plants, animals and other living beings largely because of the climate. The main reason for Earth's friendliness is that it is at approximately 150 million km from the Sun, and is tilted so that the Sun's energy is spread over much of the world at different seasons of the year. Most parts of the Earth can support a variety of living organisms. Temperatures on the Earth are in the range that allows water to exist in all its forms, as a gas, as a liquid and as a solid. As we will see, this is most important for the workings of all sorts of environmental systems on the Earth. Such temperatures allow living organisms to grow and flourish. The Earth's environment can be subdivided into the following 4 parts. Figure 1.1. 1. Lithosphere. 2. Hydrosphere. 3. Atmosphere. And 4. Biosphere. Let us discuss each one by one in detail. Figure 1.1. Components of the environment. Look at the screen. The Earth's crust consisting of the rocks and soil is called lithosphere. This oil is made of inorganic and organic matter and water. The minerals found on the lithosphere are compounds derived from the elements oxygen, silicon, aluminum, calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron, manganese and tin. The organic constituents are mainly polysaccharides, and organic compounds of nitrogen, phosphorus and sulfur. The organic constituents are found in the thin top layer of soil and are responsible for the fertility of the soil. Again, pollutants have penetrated the lithosphere, making the food that is grown harmful to humans. 2. Hydrosphere. Water has always been considered an essential part of life. It is the most important component of the Earth. Early human settlements always took into account a good source of water supply. The hydrosphere is that part of the Earth where water is available. It comprises 71 to 72% of the Earth's surface, but as much as 97% is seawater and is unfit for human consumption. Out of the remaining, 2% is frozen in the polar caps and hence only 1% is available. Water is a precious commodity. The unique properties of water are responsible for supporting terrestrial and aquatic life on the Earth. Surface water today is badly contaminated by numerous pollutants peculiar to modern life. Water that flows from agricultural fields into rivers and lakes contain chemicals from fertilizers and pesticides. Sometimes sewage from the city runs into freshwater supplies, and dangerous effluents from industries have polluted large water bodies. Increasing pollution of the hydrosphere has increased health hazards. Even rainwater that returns to the Earth comes with various pollutants that cause damage to crops as well as human beings. 3. Atmosphere. The Earth is surrounded by an envelope made of a mixture of gases. This envelope of gases surrounding the Earth is called the atmosphere. The atmosphere extends up to 500 kilometers above the Earth's surface. The main gases in the atmosphere are nitrogen and oxygen, which together make up about 99% of the volume. The remaining 1% is made of other gases, such as carbon dioxide, argon, neon, helium, ozone, hydrogen, krypton, methane, and xenon. The atmosphere protects the Earth from harmful cosmic radiations. It screens the dangerous ultraviolet radiations from the sun and allows only radiations in the range of 300 nanometers to 2500 nanometers, includes visible light and radio waves. It plays a major role in maintaining the heat balance of the Earth by absorbing the reflected radiation from the Earth. In addition, the atmosphere is the medium of carriage of water from the oceans to the land in the hydrological cycle. The atmosphere provides life-sustaining oxygen, the soil macronutrient nitrogen and the carbon dioxide needed for photosynthesis. Oxygen is required for survival and, therefore, a good number of forest trees and green plants are required to supply the atmosphere with plenty of oxygen. The trees and plants utilize carbon dioxide for the production of food. This food is also consumed by other organisms to survive. You will now realize why, with the cutting down of trees and with the growth of population, the atmosphere has been affected, making living conditions difficult. Health and wholeness depends on the right atmosphere with adequate amounts of oxygen. It is no exception that health problems have increased, and you will notice that most diseases are found in slums and settlements, which are congested and lack fresh air. 4. Biosphere. The part of the Earth where we reside is called the biosphere. This is the part of the Earth and atmosphere in which life is possible. The biosphere is like a capsule encircling the Earth's surface wherein all the living things exist. The biosphere extends from 10,000 meters below sea level to 6,000 meters above sea level. The biosphere covers parts of other segments of the environment as well, namely lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere. All known life is confined to the biosphere. Living organisms mainly exist where solar radiation is received during the day, i.e., the atmosphere, the land surface, and the upper layers of water of oceans, lakes and rivers. However, There is life in parts of the ocean where light cannot penetrate, and this is because gravity enables energy flow to continue downward and make life possible. Life-supporting resources, such as food, water and oxygen present in the biosphere are being withdrawn continuously, and increasing quantities of waste products are being dumped into the life zone, biosphere. In fact, the biosphere has been absorbing these waste products and assimilating them. However, the rate of waste dumping has gone beyond the assimilating capability of the biosphere, and signals of this stress are becoming evident. 1.4 Importance of environment. Environment sustains life. It belongs to all and is important to all. Environment is the surrounding of an organism that affects it during its lifetime. In turn, all organisms, including people, affect many components in their environment. Humans are an integral part of the environment and, as you know, the human societies derive many essential goods from the natural environment or the ecosystem. These goods represent important and familiar parts of the economy. The ecosystem provides a variety of benefits to humans in the form of services and products. The ecosystem services include provisioning, regulating, cultural, and supporting services. Provisioning services are the products people obtain from the environment, such as food, fuel, fiber, fresh water, and genetic resources. Regulating services are the benefits humans obtain from the regulation of the environment processes, including air quality maintenance, climate regulation, erosion control, regulation of human diseases, and water purification. Cultural services are the non-material benefits humans obtain from the environment through spiritual enrichment, cognitive development, reflection, recreation, and aesthetic experiences. Supporting services are those that are necessary for the production of all other environment services, such as primary production, production of oxygen, and soil formation. Environment is closely linked to biodiversity. Biodiversity is the variability of the organisms in the environment. It includes diversity within and between species of plants and animals. Because of this biodiversity, we get various products and services. Products of biodiversity include food and genetic resources, among other things. Changes in biodiversity can influence all the other products and services they provide. In addition to the important role of biodiversity in providing these products and services to humans, the diversity of living species has intrinsic value independent of any human concern. 1.5 Human impact on environment. Life has not always been like this. It was only towards the end of the 20th century that there began a noticeable deterioration of the natural environment. There was pollution in land, water and air, as well as other alarming facts that caused concern. In cities, where populations increased, there was accumulation of waste which caused pollution, while outside the cities there was degradation of soil, extinction of some forms of wildlife and an overall change in natural surroundings. Technology, which was supposed to make our life easier, began to affect our surroundings, and human life itself began to be affected in various ways. Even rural life began to change with pressures being put on them to supply the demands of the urban rich. Newer problems entered into the serene and healthy community life of the past. You will already begin to see the direct connection between our health and the state of the environment around us. With pollution mounting at such a frightening magnitude, health problems also are compounded. Many of the diseases today are directly linked to the deteriorating environment. 1.6 Environmental issues. Environmental issues are defined as the problems with the Earth's systems, air, water, soil, etc., that have developed or been created as a result of human interference or activities. The Earth's environment is changing due to human activities. There is little doubt that the Earth's environment is changing on all scales, from the local, e.g., air, soil, and water pollution, to regional, e.g., acid deposition and land degradation, to the global, e.g., climate change and loss of biodiversity, level. These changes are to a large measure due to human activities, and undermine the efforts to alleviate poverty, and adversely affect water resources, human health, agriculture, forestry, fisheries, and ecosystems. Worse, future projected changes in the environment are likely to have even more severe consequences for sustainable development. Due to industrialization, urbanization, and injudicious use of natural resources, the various components of the environment are affected. The atmospheric pollution-related issues, such as greenhouse effect, global warming, climate change, stratospheric ozone depletion, tropospheric ozone pollution, acid rain, and photochemical smog threaten the existence of the organisms. Water pollution-related issues, such as arsenic pollution, fluoride pollution, and heavy metal pollution are some of the major issues faced by the communities of the world. Some of the well-known issues affecting the world pertaining to land are land degradation, problematic soils, declining soil fertility and productivity, hazardous wastes, etc. You will know more about these issues in other units in this block. The growing concern about the degrading environment has led to several environmental laws in India. In the subsequent paragraphs, you will know about some of the important global issues, such as greenhouse effect, global warming, ozone depletion, acid rain, deforestation, and food security. 1.6.1 Greenhouse effect. Greenhouse actually refers to a glass chamber where plants are kept under controlled conditions. It is usually used in cold countries as the glass house is able to maintain warmer temperature ideal for the growth of plants. This greenhouse effect is seen in the environment also. Some gases present in the atmosphere perform functions similar to that of glass. The main greenhouse gases are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, ozone, chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, and water vapors. These gases form a blanket over the Earth's surface and allow the shortwave solar radiations to pass through and fall on the Earth, thereby heating the Earth's surface. However, these gases do not allow the long-wave radiations reflected back from the Earth to escape into the space. These reflected long-wave radiations are emitted back to the Earth's surface by the greenhouse gases, thereby resulting in the buildup of temperature. Figure 1.2 provides a diagrammatic representation of the greenhouse effect. Look at the screen. Figure 1.2, Greenhouse effect. The most important of the greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, CO, has increased by about 25% in the last 100 years. Fossil fuel combustion and deforestation are the main reasons for the increase in the atmospheric CO. 1.6.2 Global warming. Now the question arises as to whether the change in temperature is due to natural factors or has it been caused by the increasing concentrations of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere? The natural factors, which can influence the Earth's surface temperature, are sun's luminosity, presence water vapors and volcanic dust in atmosphere. The solar intensity is one of the principal factors, which governs the Earth's surface temperature. Any change in this can cause the Earth's surface temperature to change. Similarly, volcanic activity, dust and water vapor in the atmosphere can reflect the incoming solar radiation and thus cause a change in the amount of radiation reaching the ground as well as the Earth's surface temperature. The problem we see with this argument is that these changes together do not account for the observed variation in the temperature. Therefore, the accumulation of greenhouse gases may be the most important factor responsible for the temperature rise. However, it should be clarified at this stage that certain other factors, i.e., increase in aerosols, cloudiness etc., can counterbalance the effect of greenhouse gases. Considering all these factors, i.e., increase in greenhouse gas concentrations and counterbalancing due to other factors, one can state with certainty that increase in the global mean temperature since 1951 is due to greenhouse gases. Some serious environmental consequences of global warming are melting of glaciers, rise of sea level, and intrusion of salt water into land. Global warming also affects climate and the health of the population. Global warming would favor the spread of vector-borne diseases and the growth of newer and more resistant strains of viruses and bacteria. 1.6.3 Ozone hole. Another important global issue is the stratospheric ozone depletion. The stratospheric ozone is commonly known as the ozone layer. It forms a protective covering over the Earth's atmosphere and prevents the entry of harmful solar ultraviolet (UV) radiation. Since late 1970s, ozone hole has appeared over Antarctica in southern hemisphere in the months of September/October, registering depletion of ozone. What is the cause of this ozone depletion? The large increase in atmospheric concentrations of chlorine and bromine-rich chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, released into atmosphere are responsible for this depletion. Volcanic eruptions also are one of the causes for the increase in chlorine concentration in the atmosphere. The chlorofluorocarbons are used as refrigerants, propellants for aerosols, and for generating foamed plastics like expanded polystyrene or polyurethane foam. Laboratory studies show that free chlorine reacts with and destroys ozone in a catalytic manner. The depletion of the protective ozone layer in the upper part of the atmosphere leads to greater exposure to UV radiations, which results in increased cases of skin cancer, especially among people of temperate latitudes, and the weakening of the immune system of humans and animals. UV radiation can also cause damage to eye and certain types of cataract. 1.6.4 Acid rain. Natural rainfall usually has pH value between 5 to 5.6. Let us understand the phenomenon of acid rains. Acid rain refers to rainfall with pH less than 5.0. Oxides of sulfur are emitted into the atmosphere as a result of combustion of fossil fuels, petroleum refining, copper smelting and cement manufacture. About 80% of oxides of sulfur come from burning of fossil fuels. Sulfur dioxide, SO, through series of chemical reactions gets converted into sulfur trioxide, SO. This trioxide form of sulfur on reaction with water produces sulfuric acid, H, SO, and this is the principal component, 60% to 70%, of the acid rain. Acid rain can damage vegetation, corrode metals and building materials, weaken organic fiber and destroy aquatic organisms. Acid rain decreases the pH of water bodies. Certain toxic metal substances, such as aluminum, lead, cadmium and mercury, which are insoluble otherwise, become soluble and can be life-threatening to fish and other organisms. Prolonged exposure to acid rain can cause serious damage to building material including marble, limestone and mortar, as the carbonates in these materials are replaced by sulfates. The limestone, CaCO, reacts with sulfuric acid producing calcium sulfate. Calcium sulfate, CaSO, produced in this reaction is water-soluble and is easily washed away, leaving behind an eroded and pitted surface. Many of the world's historic monuments, e.g., Taj Mahal, and statues have been gradually degraded as a result of exposure to acid rain. 1.6.5 Deforestation. Deforestation is another important issue of global environmental concern. It has been estimated that originally the Earth was covered by 16 million square kilometers of forests. Reportedly, between 2002 and 2012, 890,000 square kilometers of forests were cut down. Forests rank second in terms of CO sinks, while oceans and seas are the primary sinks of CO. The changes in land use affect the amount of carbon locked up in vegetation and soils and, therefore, the carbon flux between land and atmosphere. The buildup of CO in atmosphere is in part due to deforestation. Apart from affecting the carbon flux of the atmosphere, deforestation might cause changes in climate with unforeseen consequences. As trees intercept solar radiation and also help in reducing wind speeds, the reduction in forest area would result in the increase in albedo of the Earth's surface and, therefore, change the radiation budget of the Earth atmospheric system. A change in the radiation budget will have an impact on climate and consequently rainfall, fresh and groundwater supply as well as soil moisture. Further, removal of vegetation cover increases the rate of soil erosion. This may lead to further desertification. Thus, efforts should be made to conserve and maintain the ecological balance in addition to these forestation programs to make up for the loss that has already been done. 1.6.6 Food security. The regional food security is likely to come under stress as a consequence of increased global warming. In a given year, due to a single abnormal event, such as storm, heat wave, and drought, an extreme reduction in agriculture output may occur. A sequence of milder events occurring together may result in poor growing season. A single poor year of less agriculture output is not going to be a problem for food security, as there may be enough reserves. But 2 or more such lean years of agriculture production occurring in succession will severely affect regional food supplies, resulting in famine. This will threaten the survival of a large number of marginal farmers who are completely dependent on agriculture. Shortage of food supplies force the local population to migrate to other more prosperous areas. Constant emigration would have a bearing on other resources besides food, i.e., water, land, civic amenities, etc. Most of the metropolitan cities are already facing multiple problems associated with ever-increasing migratory population. 1.7 Environment and its effect on health. In this section, we will know more about the effect of environment on health. Since health is a relative concept, different people have defined health differently. The standard definition that is followed is the World Health Organization (WHO) definition. WHO defines health as a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being, and not merely an absence of disease or infirmity. This state of health enables a person to lead a socially and economically productive life. There are a number of factors which determine the state of health. These include biological, behavioral, environmental, socio-economic, socio-cultural and health system. Some other determinants like aging of population, gender, human rights, etc. also determine health. Let us understand how environmental factors determine the state of health. There are numbers of pressures on the environment. These pressures include population growth, inequitable resource distribution and technological development. These pressures in turn lead to a number of health hazards. Specifically, the physical, chemical, radioactive contaminants, biological and psychological aspects are the important environmental factors, which play an important role in determining the state of our health. Fig. 1.3. Psychosocial factors: stress, occupation, income, relationship with fellow workers, friends and relatives. Biological factors: viruses, bacteria, parasites. Physical factors: temperature, humidity, noise, lighting, radiation, ergonomics. Chemical factors: pollutants, allergens, chemicals, drugs, tobacco and food additives. Accidental factors: hazard situation, emotional tensions, social pressure, influence of alcohol and drugs, etc. Figure 1.3. Environmental factors affecting human health. Thus you can realize that environment quality is an important direct and indirect determinant of human health. In the developing countries, the population are most at risk from traditional environmental health hazards. These hazards include unsafe water supply and poor sanitation, poor housing, poor indoor air quality, unsafe food and high prevalence of vectors or agents that spread disease. Traditional health hazards as well as from modern hazards like water pollution, air pollution, hazardous waste, unsafe use of chemicals, occupational hazards and traffic accidents, are found to affect the population globally. There are a number of diseases that are directly the result of poor environment quality. Acute diarrheal disease and acute respiratory infections are the two most common ones. Other conditions include occupational hazards and vector-borne diseases. 1.7.1 Environmental health hazards. Environmental health hazards mean that any of the environmental factors, in combination or singly, interferes with normal physiological functioning of our human body and leads to disability, disease or even death. We can divide the health hazards for better understanding of their consequences into short-term, long-term and transient health hazards. Short-term health hazards. Short-term health hazards last for only days or weeks and are a result of temporary exposure to harmful materials. It is especially common among casual and contract laborers who are hired to handle hazardous material without proper safety training. Apart from a few dangerous chemicals, these short-term effects on the body usually disappear on withdrawal from exposure to the hazardous material. Only parts of the body or single organs are affected, and these ill effects can also be usually treated. Examples of these short-term hazards could be many skin allergies due to chemicals, radiation sickness due to exposure to radiation, and anthrax bacterial infections of the skin among sheep and cattle skin handlers, etc. 2. Long-term health hazards. Long-term health hazards last for months and years and are due to long-term and continuous exposure to hazardous materials. Permanent workers and residents in the affected area are usually subject to the hazardous effect owing to the long period of stay in the same place as the hazardous material. Not only are multiple organs of the body affected, but there is also continuing damage or residual damage to the human body. In some cases, such as long exposure to various types of dusts, the ill effects, pneumoconiosis, persist even after removal from exposure after a number of years. Usually these ill effects are not reversible even with treatment, and the deterioration in health is progressive. If the person has chronic or long-term diseases such as hypertension, diabetes and heart diseases, these diseases could become worse in the presence of long-term exposure to certain hazardous material. The treatment is costly and not as effective. Finally, long-term exposure to hazardous materials also shortens the lifespan. Examples of long-term hazards could be the gradual accumulation of arsenic in the body from bore-well drinking water, leading to loss of hair, skin changes, bone damage, etc. This occurs in certain parts of West Bengal, India. Intake of excess fluorine through drinking water causes dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, which can be seen in states like Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan, Karnataka, etc. Gradual accumulation of lead from vehicular traffic exhausts, which leads to damage to nearly all organs of the body over a period of time. Asthmatic attacks and allergies due to pollen grains in the air. 3. Transient hazards. The exposure of these types of hazards is usually sudden, accidental, and occurs rarely. The effect on the body depends on the type and nature of the factor involved. If there is a dangerous chemical involved, the ill effect may be immediate and severe. However, the ill effect could also be only of a short duration with recovery thereafter if the factor is not so poisonous. Examples of transient hazards could be spillage of chemicals in factories or in accidents of vehicles transporting the chemicals. The affected people in such spillages could have various skin, lung, eyes problems depending on the nature of the chemical. 1.7.2 Sources of environmental hazards. The sources of environmental hazards can be classified depending upon where they are present. G. Water, air, soil, etc. Fig 1.4 shows some of the sources of environmental hazards. You will read more about these sources in Units 3 and 4 of this block. Source. Water. Bacterial diseases like typhoid, diarrhea, dysentery. Viral diseases like polio, hepatitis A. Protozoal diseases like amoebiasis. Metal toxins such as lead, arsenic and mercury causing chronic diseases. Radiation. Sun's ultraviolet rays cause skin cancer. X-ray in industry causes radiation. Sickness, genetic defects, cancers. Animal. Dogs rabies. Mosquitoes malaria, filaria. Flies typhoid, cholera. Fleas plague. Ticks encephalitis. Itch mites scabies. Sandflies Kala-Azar. Air. Oxides of nitrogen respiratory tract infection, hydrocarbon lung. Cancer. Greater than SO2 asthma. DOSTs pneumoconiosis and allergies. Social. Greater than open-air defecation diarrhea or spitting tuberculosis. Skin branding secondary infection drug abuse dependence. Alcoholism, accidents. 1.7.3 Effect of environmental hazards on health. The effects that hazards have on the health are both direct and indirect. The direct effects are generally specific and can be easily observable or measurable. On the other hand, indirect effects are long-term and cannot be easily quantified. The amount of impact that a hazard will have on the health depends upon the dose of the insult, the frequency of administration or contract, nature and duration of application, nutritional status and the pre-existing illness. 1.7 Prevention and control of environmental hazards. Prevention usually implies two strategies, which are applied before the exposure to the hazard, and the actions are usually applied on health individuals to eliminate their risk of exposure. Control measures are usually employed after the exposure to the hazard. Action is usually taken at the individual level and aims at isolating and treating the affected people. 1.8 Let us sum up. We are now ready to sum up our cursory study of the environment, its various components or features, its many implications and some complications that may arise if we do not handle our resources wisely. You will be studying some of these facts in more detail later in this block. What you have deemed so far is sufficient to give you a bird's-eye view of your environment and its effect on health. A summary of the concepts studied in this unit is provided in Figure 1.5. Look at the screen. You have grasped something of what is environment and understood the intricate interlinking of its various components. You have seen that the environment is not merely something static, it is a dynamic interaction. You have also learned about the biosphere as that part of the universe within which life exists. You have also understood the way people are increasingly affecting the environment. You have learned that people and nature are closely connected and the changes in one lead to changes in other. An increase in the human population and the development activities could be considered as a major contributor for global environmental change. You are now also aware of how a polluted environment is harmful to our health and well-being. In the next unit you will know about the various concepts of our environment, such as ecosystem, food chain, and biogeochemical cycles in detail.